Unheard Cries, The Tragic Fate of Hindu and Sikh Girls in Pakistan. Written by Arshia Malik. How Chingari Project highlights the plight of minority girls in Pakistan and raises international awareness of the religious persecution in the land of the pure. On March 15, 2022, the United Nations adopted a resolution introduced by Pakistan that declared March 15th as International Day to Combat Islamophobia. Meanwhile, young Hindu girls were routinely being snatched from their families in Pakistan, forced into conversion, and married off to much older men or sold to terrorist groups. However, neither Pakistan nor the United Nations had the decency to acknowledge the dire situation of these girls, because apparently their horrific plight is not as important as the manufactured threat of Islamophobia. Religious minorities in the land of the pure face institutionalized discrimination and violence on various fronts. For girls belonging to Hindu, Sikh, and Christian communities, the threats are even more severe. They are often subjected to abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages. Reports indicate that more than 1,000 young girls, some as young as 7 years old, are kidnapped annually, coerced into converting to Islam, and then married off to their abductors or other men against their will. These acts are frequently justified under the guise of religious duty or social norms, leaving the victims and their families with little recourse to justice. Nature of persecution. The systematic persecution of Hindu, Sikh, and Christian girls in Pakistan is a multifaceted issue that involves physical, psychological, and social abuse. These young girls, often minors, are forced into marriages and conversions, stripping them of their identity, freedom, and future. The trauma experienced by these girls is profound, affecting not only their personal lives but also their families and communities, who live in a state of perpetual fear and helplessness. Societal and systematic factors. Several societal and systemic factors contribute to the persecution of vulnerable minority girls in Pakistan, with deep-rooted religious intolerance being at the core. Pakistan's creation was based on the two-nation theory, which proposed that Indian Muslims and Hindus were distinct nations with their own customs and ways of life, advocating separate homelands for these communities within a decolonized British India. This theory, championed by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, led to the formation of Pakistan in 1947. Over 7 decades later, the impact of this theory remains evident, perpetuating the discrimination and persecution of religious minorities in both former West Pakistan and East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. In many rural areas where these incidents are most prevalent, the theory is very much alive in the minds of the majority Muslim community, and the rule of the law is essentially absent. Local authorities often turn a blind eye to the suffering of minority communities. Furthermore, effective legal mechanisms to protect these vulnerable groups are practically non-existent. Even when cases are brought to court, the legal process is often biased, favoring the majority Muslim community and failing to deliver justice to the victims. The education system and media also play a role in perpetuating these prejudices. School curriculums Islamized since the 1970s due to an aggressive program implemented by Pakistan's military dictator Zia-ul-Haq often portray religious minorities in a negative light, fostering an environment of intolerance from a young age. Media coverage of these incidents is limited, and when it does occur, it is frequently biased or downplayed, preventing the issue from gaining the national and international attention it deserves. This systematic bias creates an environment where perpetrators feel empowered to commit such acts with impunity, knowing they are unlikely to face any consequences. Historical context. Understanding the historical context is crucial to grasp the experiences of these minority groups within the neighboring country. During the colonial era, British divide-and-rule policies heightened religious tensions, prompting the Muslim elite of the United Provinces, now Uttar Pradesh, particularly at Aligarh Muslim University, AMU, to envision the creation of a separate Islamic state. The partition of India in 1947 led to the creation of Pakistan. The resultant bloody riots, with millions dead and displaced on both sides of the border, sowed the seeds of religious intolerance in Pakistan, compounded by the Islamization of its constitution and institutions, manifesting in various forms of discrimination against non-Muslim minorities. In contrast, India remained secular, treating all religions equally, in line with the Eastern concept of secularism and unlike the Western idea of separating church and state. Role of madrasas. Madrasas, Islamic seminaries, in Pakistan have played a significant role in the forced conversion of Hindu girls and women. The number of registered madrasas in Pakistan has skyrocketed from fewer than 3,000 in 1988 to nearly 30,000 in 2015, instilling religious fervor in over 3 million young minds. The rapid expansion of Islamic religious education has fueled hatred against minorities and led to a rise in forced conversions. Some madrasas, like Barchandi Sharifs and Pir Ayub Jans, have become notorious for promoting and facilitating the forced conversion of Hindu girls in the Sindh province. Madrasas are de facto centers of religious extremism in Pakistan, with some promoting a rigid, intolerant interpretation of Islam, Deobandi, Wahhabi, Salafi, that justifies the use of force against religious minorities. The majority of madrasas stubbornly refuse to incorporate modern and secular subjects, women's rights, and human rights education into their curriculum. This perpetuates a narrow, patriarchal worldview that promotes social discrimination against minorities, especially Hindus, and provides religious justification for the sexual exploitation of non-Muslim women. Powerful madrasa leaders and clerics have been implicated in orchestrating and facilitating forced conversions, often as part of a money-making scheme. Specific cases and testimonies. Asiya Noreen, also known as Asia Bibi, is a Pakistani Christian woman who was convicted of blasphemy in 2010 and sentenced to death by hanging. Her conviction stemmed from an argument with co-workers while harvesting berries, during which she was accused of insulting the Prophet Muhammad. The case drew international attention and sparked widespread protests. After spending nearly a decade in prison, the Supreme Court of Pakistan acquitted her in October 2018, citing insufficient evidence. Following her acquittal, she faced significant threats and was finally allowed to leave Pakistan in May 2019, arriving in Canada shortly thereafter. Salman Taseer, the governor of Punjab, Pakistan, was a prominent supporter of her case. He publicly opposed Pakistan's blasphemy laws and advocated for Asia Bibi's release, which made him a target for extremists. On January 4, 2011, he was assassinated by his bodyguard, Mumtaz Qadri, who opposed Taseer's stance on the blasphemy laws. Qadri was later convicted and executed for the murder. Following his execution in February 2016, Qadri's burial site in the city of Rawalpindi became a shrine for his supporters. Over time, a more elaborate mausoleum was built to honor him, attracting a significant number of visitors and highlighting the deep divisions within Pakistan regarding its blasphemy laws and the case of Asia Bibi. Qadri's shrine has become a symbol for those who view him as a hero for defending the blasphemy laws, underscoring the ongoing controversy and societal tensions surrounding these issues. Taseer's assassination itself highlighted the extreme risks faced by those who challenge Pakistan's blasphemy laws and advocate for religious tolerance and minority rights. The personal testimonies and specific cases of persecution highlight the severe and widespread nature of this issue. For instance, a minor young Hindu girl in Sindh was raped and brutally murdered. Her body was found in a doctor's house. Educated or not, some Muslim men in Pakistan believe it is their duty and privilege to violate minority girls. In another case, Priya Kumari, a 7-year-old, was serving sherbet with her dad during Muharram in Sindh when some Muslim men took her away. It's said that a Muslim man, Sardar Zahid Ali Shah, had made advances to Priya's mother with no success, so he took the little girl. Her whereabouts remain unknown, and the police are pretending to investigate. An 11-year-old Christian girl was raped by a Muslim man named Ahmad Raza in Pakistan, yet the police did not take any action. Another case involves Parisha Kumari, a 14-year-old minor Hindu girl who was beaten, abducted, and forcibly converted by armed men at Garhai Mori in Sindh. Despite lodging a police report, no action has been taken to recover this 9th-grade student. Kavita Kumari, a minor Hindu girl from the Gaki area of Sindh, was abducted and forcibly converted to Islam at the Dargah of Mian Abdul Haq, aka Mian Mithu, a notorious cleric involved in numerous incidents of torture, exploitation, and forcible conversion of Hindus and Sikhs. In a video that went viral, he can be seen forcing Kavita Kumari to embrace Islam. In December 2022, Mithu was named one of the top 30 human rights violators by the United Kingdom, a member of the Five Eyes Alliance. Unfortunately, the other alliance members, the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, refused to take a similar principled stand. In June 2023, a 14-year-old Hindu girl, Sohana Sharma Kumari, was kidnapped at gunpoint from her home in Sindh, Pakistan, by her tutor and his accomplices, forcibly converted to Islam, and married off to a Muslim man. Her father, Dilip Kumar, filed a police complaint reporting her kidnapping. Despite repeated pleas from her and her family, the district court refused to return her to her parents. These and other heart-wrenching cases highlight the urgent need for advocacy and protection for Hindu girls facing persecution in Pakistan. Impact on victims and their families. The persecution of minority girls in Pakistan has devastating impacts on the victims and their families. The trauma of abduction, forced conversion, and sexual exploitation leaves deep psychological scars. The persecution of minority girls in Pakistan has devastating impacts on the victims and their families. The trauma of abduction, forced conversion, and sexual exploitation leaves deep psychological scars. Many girls have post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. The stigma attached to such experiences further isolates them from their communities, compounding their suffering. Families of the victims often face threats and intimidation, discouraging them from seeking justice. The societal rejection and lack of support make it incredibly challenging for these families to rebuild their lives. One shocking indicator of the fear of Islamic predators is that many parents refuse to send their daughters to school, resulting in an abysmal literacy rate among Pakistani Hindu girls. The Chingari Project, a beacon of hope. Amidst this bleak scenario, initiatives like the Chingari Project offer a glimmer of hope. The Chingari Project is a non-governmental organization dedicated to combating the persecution of minority girls in Pakistan. The Chingari Project engages in advocacy and awareness campaigns, both locally and internationally. By partnering with human rights organizations, the project amplifies the voices of victims and pressures the Pakistani government to take concrete steps towards protecting religious minorities. Educational initiatives are another critical component to changing societal attitudes and promoting tolerance and respect for all religious communities. The Chingari Project has had a significant impact on the lives of minority girls in Pakistan by raising awareness and advocating for their rights. It highlights the abduction, forced conversion, and exploitation these girls face, drawing international attention and support. By engaging Hindu communities worldwide, it has created a network of supporters dedicated to ending the persecution of Hindu, Sikh, and Christian girls in Pakistan and pressuring the Pakistani government to act. Supporting the Chingari Project. Supporting the Chingari Project can make a meaningful difference in the lives of Hindu and Christian girls facing persecution in Pakistan. There are several ways to contribute to this cause. Spread awareness. Share information about the Chingari Project on social media, blogs, or through conversations. Educate others about these girls' challenges and the importance of protecting their rights. Donate. Consider making a financial contribution to the Chingari Project. Donations can help fund legal aid, advocacy efforts, and support services for victims. Volunteer if you have relevant skills such as legal expertise, social work, or communication. Inquire about volunteering opportunities. Your time and expertise can be valuable. Advocate. Write to policymakers, human rights organizations, and international bodies to raise awareness about the plight of these girls and advocate for stronger protection and accountability. Collaborate. Partner with the Chingari Project or other organizations working in this field. Collaborate on campaigns, workshops, or awareness events. International community's role. The international community has a moral obligation to hold the Pakistani government accountable and ensure that it takes meaningful steps to protect all its citizens, regardless of their religious affiliation. International human rights organizations and foreign governments need to exert pressure on Pakistan to implement and enforce laws that protect minority rights. Diplomatic efforts, economic sanctions, and international advocacy can be powerful tools in this regard. Concluding remarks. The persecution of Hindu and Christian girls in Pakistan is a grave human rights issue that demands immediate action. By understanding the nature and extent of this persecution, recognizing the societal and systematic factors that contribute to it, and supporting initiatives like the Chingari Project, we can work towards a future where every girl, regardless of her religion, can live free from fear and oppression. It is a collective responsibility to ensure that the cries of these young girls do not go unheard and that justice is served.